Having a painting like that in the entryway would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? That's why I took it down, my daughter-in-law Michelle remarked without a hint of remorse. She had casually sold it on a flea market app. The painting was a colored pencil drawing of a Jera, a keepsake from my late mother, who had made it for me on her deathbed. But that painting was from my late mother, I protested, trying to keep my voice steady. I know, but I can't display an amateur's painting. It's just too embarrassing, she replied dismissively. Don't you think that's a bit harsh, even for a daughter-in-law? I asked, summoning the courage to stand up for myself. Michelle didn't flinch. Crossing her arms, she glared at me. Lily, you should consider your position. Remember, when you need care in the future, John and I will be the ones looking after you. There it was, her usual trump card. So, you think it gives you the right to just sell off my things? I retorted. I am John's one and only wife. You should think carefully about how much you'll need our help, she said coldly, her eyes narrowing into a final glare before she walked away, her high-end shoes clicking sharply on the floor. Tomorrow, I will move into a new house by myself. Michelle sold the painting just to spite me. Knowing this, it wasn't the first time my son John and his wife Michelle had sold my belongings without my consent, but selling my mother's keepsake was unforgivable. Both Michelle and my son, who is entirely under her influence, infuriate me. Once I move, I plan to cut ties with them entirely. They can live as they please in this old house with my husband. I am Lily, a 50-year-old housewife who has been working part-time at a factory while managing all the household chores for years, taking care of my family, including my husband, our only son, and for the last 3 years, my daughter-in-law Michelle. 6 months ago, I lost my mother, who raised me alone. She left me a substantial amount of life insurance money, and with that, I decided to buy a small, newly built house and separate from my increasingly distant husband. Michelle sold my mother's painting the day before I was to move into that house. When I told my husband I was moving out, he simply replied, "Do as you like." Our relationship had grown cold over the years, neither of us to blame. It was just inevitable. However, the ones who strongly opposed my move were my son and his wife. "Who will do the housework if you leave, Lily?" Michelle demanded. "You're a housewife too, aren't you?" I asked. "I'm a civil servant, just like John. Not a part-timer like you," she snapped back. "Michelle's right, Mom. It's ridiculous for a mother to abandon her family," John added. As I packed, they kept complaining, "Why buy a house now, of all times?" But it was my money, left to me by my mother, and I was determined to start anew. I can spend it however I please. The life insurance money should have been used for the family. Buying a house just for yourself is wasteful, my son argued. "Yeah, you should have shared some of Grandma's insurance money with us," chimed in my daughter-in-law, who never lifts a finger to do laundry and spends her time on dance yoga, Italian lessons, and indulging in branded goods. Watching my son, completely under her thumb, joining to scold me was the last straw. I'm fed up with it all. On the night of the move, my friend Emma, who lives near my new place, invited me over. "Let's have dinner together," she suggested. "My husband's out for a drinking party, so it's the perfect time." "Thank you. I haven't even unpacked my dishes yet," I replied gratefully. Emma's house is an impressive single-family home. She and her husband built it large because they love dogs and wanted to keep big breeds. Currently, 3 Dobermans were lounging quietly in the living room. While eating the hamburgers Emma had prepared, I shared my frustrations about John and Michelle with her. "What's with that, daughter-in-law? And sorry to say, but your son sounds pitiful," Emma remarked. "John has always been a bit timid, but now he's completely under his wife's control. It's frustrating," I admitted. A large dog approached me, seemingly sensing my distress, and curled up at my feet. Among the 3 Dobermans, it was the female named Daisy. "Daisy is much kinder than my own son," I mused. "My dogs are all smart and well-behaved. I used to be a dog trainer, you know," Emma said, smiling. Emma is highly skilled in handling dogs. Despite their size and intimidating appearance, they are gentle and intelligent. They never harm people but can bark at unwelcome guests on command. "I wish I had a gentle dog like Daisy." "Well, why don't you get one? I'll help you train it," Emma offered. "Indeed, starting today, I'm free to do whatever I want. I'm about to start a new life in my small, newly built house, and that should be enough, right?" That's what I thought until I received a call from my son at the end of the month. "Michelle and I are moving into the family home next month. I was just getting used to living alone and starting to enjoy my freedom. The family home. Oh, you mean Michelle's family home? I asked, confused. No, Mom, your house, my son clarified. My house. You're living in your father's house. That should be the family home, I replied, still not understanding. Michelle and I talked about it, and we decided that a family home really means the mother's house, not the father's. So, we've decided to move into your house, he explained. That's not possible. My house is too small. There's no space for 3 people to live, I protested, hoping it was some kind of joke. The thought of being bossed around and burdened with all the housework by John and Michelle again was unbearable. But there's at least one room to sleep in, right? You can sleep in a corner of the living room, and we'll use that room, he suggested. Don't be ridiculous. Absolutely not. Me, sleep in a corner of the living room? The very idea made my blood boil. Even if you say no, we're moving in, I'll start by sending some boxes by courier. I'll refuse to accept them, I countered. Yeah, I'll figure something out. Anyway, we're moving in, so just be ready, John said, abruptly hanging up the phone. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want this, and I couldn't allow it to happen. The next day, I went to a family restaurant with Emma. I desperately needed someone to talk to. Sorry to say, but they are the worst kind of son and daughter-in-law, Emma said, sipping her cafe latte in disbelief. You absolutely must not accept this. You need to firmly refuse. But knowing those two, they might just hire movers and start bringing in furniture, I worried. I just didn't know what to do. I took a sip of my jasmine tea, hoping to wash away my pathetic feelings, but even my favorite tea tasted incredibly bitter. Yeah, it would be hard to refuse if movers brought everything. It could even lead to trouble. I need to find a way to make them realize they can't come to my house. I want to teach them a lesson for their rotten attitudes. Maybe we could enlist the help of my pets, Emma suggested. Your pets? I asked, intrigued. Her pets were Max, Duke, and Daisy, her 3 Dobermans. My pets can bark and growl on command. They can put on quite a show. Maybe they could scare them off. True, John has been afraid of dogs since he was a child, I recalled. Living with a son and daughter-in-law who would sell your mother's keepsake is tough. Let's think of something. Yes, thank you, Emma. Talking with her had lightened my heart a little. However, when I got home, I realized that my son and his wife were serious. There were 2 large cardboard boxes piled up in front of the entrance. John and my belongings, as he said you would refuse delivery, we brought them ourselves. We'll definitely be moving in next month, so please put them in the house. Michelle. Reading the note attached to the boxes, I felt disheartened. Reluctantly, I brought the boxes inside and opened them to find various personal items of my son and his wife. John's watch and leather jacket, Michelle's high-end brand bags, clothes, and shoes. They deliberately left expensive items that I would hesitate to throw away. Their tactics were just too underhanded. Between selling my mother's painting and now this, what do they think of me? Maybe we could enlist the help of my pets. Emma's words from the family restaurant echoed in my head ever since I settled into my new home. I've occasionally joined Emma and her dogs for walks. She invites me along for a change of scenery, and I'm truly grateful for her friendship. Why not just sell their belongings? Your daughter-in-law does it, right? Emma suggested. That's true. She even sold the painting my mother left me, I replied, holding the leash of Max, the male Doberman, who looked up at me with kind eyes. Still, why are your son and daughter-in-law so eager to live with you, Lily? They're both civil servants and financially stable. They should be able to live on their own, Emma wondered. They don't want to do housework, especially Michelle. She's always busy with her hobbies, going out and watching fashion and makeup videos. So, you've been doing all the housework alone until now? Yes, my husband never does anything. John is often busy with overtime and business trips, and Michelle, well, I explained. I remembered an overheard conversation between my son and his wife on the day I announced I was leaving the house. Who will do the housework if Lily leaves? John had asked. Well, that would be you. No way, absolutely not. We'll be in trouble if we can't make her do everything, Michelle had replied. Emma sighed in disbelief as I recounted this. A week later, my phone was flooded with calls from Michelle. After dozens of calls, I reluctantly answered, Is your new place a small house? Yes, it is. I've told you that before. John said he saw you walking with 3 big dogs. He was wondering if you could really keep 3 dogs in such a small house. That's when it clicked. Michelle must be afraid of dogs. Some people have a fear of dogs, and John is one of them. They must have been too preoccupied with the dogs to notice Emma with me. I've told you it's a small house. If you're worried, why don't you come and see? We will. Yes, we want to check the inside of the house too. Michelle's voice sounded a bit relieved, as if she concluded there were no dogs. Anyway, we'll come this Sunday at 10 o'clock a.m. She quickly hung up. I couldn't help but let out a quiet yes under my breath. The counterattack had begun. On Sunday, as expected, John and Michelle arrived at my house. You actually came, I greeted them. We said we would. Let's go in, John replied. Really, Mom, it's all because you whimsically bought a house that we're dealing with this hassle, Michelle added, grumbling as they took off their shoes and entered the house. Exactly, you should have just quietly continued doing the housework as before. But this is perfect. I smirked internally as I opened the living room door. Whoa! In the next moment, my son and his wife screamed in unison. There, sitting in the living room, were two male Dobermans, Max and Duke. No way, Mom. These dogs. These are my dogs. Aren't they cute? I got them from Emma, a dog trainer who's sitting over there. Emma, who was sitting on the sofa, stood up and smiled warmly. They're well trained and very sweet. Max, Duke, would you greet our guests? The two dogs barked once in unison. No way, Michelle exclaimed, clearly terrified. Overwhelmed by fear, she sat down, clutching her head, revealing her strong aversion to dogs. Oh, these dogs are adorable. Don't worry, Emma reassured. Max, Duke, go play. At her command, the two dogs ran toward John and Michelle, their tails wagging eagerly. Stop. No, I'm scared. Michelle shook her head, trembling. Max was only trying to invite her to play, but Michelle couldn't understand that. I'm scared of dogs, she cried, her face becoming a mess of tears and runny nose. If you're going to live here, you'll need to get along with these dogs, I said calmly. Michelle's meticulously applied makeup, researched from YouTube, was ruined. Mascara running, eyeshadow glitter smeared down her cheeks, high foundation streaked with tears and snot. How would she face the ride home on the train looking like this? Mom, do something. John pleaded, clearly intimidated by the larger Duke. He had fallen and was backing away, and Duke, interpreting his movements as play, joyfully jumped on him. Stop it. Big dogs are scary. Looking at John's jeans, I noticed a change in color around the crotch area. He was so scared of the dogs that he had an accident. How pitiful. Max, Duke, come here. Emma, sensing it was time, called the dogs back. They immediately left John and Michelle and returned to her side. Max, Duke, down. With one command, the dogs lay down at Emma's feet. Such intelligent animals. All this time, I was busy with part-time work and house chores, and you didn't lift a finger to help. Now, as soon as I say I'm leaving, you decide to move into my house. How much more can you belittle your mother? I finally let out the words I had been holding in. As the sobbing couple stood up, I continued, I left the house because I was fed up with you two. I am not your housekeeper. The dogs, they're well trained and kinder than you two. Gone was the usual assertive demeanor of John and Michelle. A husband with a wet crotch and a wife with ruined makeup, a fitting pair, and to top it off, selling my precious belongings without permission. I will never forgive you for selling my mother's keepsake painting. I said it all in one breath, then looked at the calmly lying Max and Duke before turning back to my son and his wife. With two big dogs like this, I'd rather not have you here. Yeah, we give up on moving in. Just give us back the stuff we left here last time, and we'll leave, John said. It's in the next room, still in the boxes. Take them and get out, I replied, pointing to the room. John and Michelle carefully avoided the dogs as they opened the door to retrieve their belongings. Suddenly, whoa, they screamed again and fell to the ground. Of course they would. Beside the cardboard boxes sat another Doberman, Daisy. Mom, get the boxes for us. No, you brought them, you take them, I said firmly, peering into the room where Daisy sat calmly. I can't go near them with that dog beside them, Michelle exclaimed. Then leave the boxes, she hesitated. My bags and John's watch are in there. You disposed of my precious things without asking, didn't you? I retorted. I'm not saying leave them. I'm telling you to take them. Michelle glared at me for a moment, then remembering the dog, sighed and looked down. Please, Mom, get the boxes. John, You and Michelle made fun of me despite knowing how important that painting was to me. You let her sell it. I know I was wrong, John stammered. At that moment, Emma approached. Daisy, would you greet our guests? Instantly, Daisy barked loudly while still sitting. No, I can't take this anymore, Michelle cried. Hearing Daisy's bark, the couple reached their limit. With John's wet jeans and Michelle's smeared makeup, they ran to the entrance and fled the house. Afterward, I sold all the belongings John and Michelle left behind at a luxury consignment store. John's watch and Michelle's bags turned out to be quite valuable. Their extravagant lifestyle was astonishing. Michelle, now back at her husband's house, ended up doing all the household chores. My husband, used to my standards, was dissatisfied with her work, complaining about her cooking, the untidy house, and the pileup of laundry. Unable to pursue her hobbies due to the chores, Michelle gained 20 pounds from stress. Her irritation was all directed at John. Mom, I can't take it anymore, John called me one day, exhausted. Michelle has started hitting me. She's always fighting with Dad, and I want a divorce. You chose her as your wife. Handle it yourself, I responded coldly. I was done getting involved with that couple. Meanwhile, I bought a female Shiba Inu and asked Emma to train her. This one will be a good dog. Emma smiled warmly as she petted the puppy I named Coco. Really, it's all thanks to you, Emma. I'm sorry for making your dogs play such roles. It's fine. Hearing your story, I was the one getting angry. But now, you can live peacefully with Coco. Yes, from now on, it's time to enjoy my life. With that resolution in my heart, I gently picked up Coco.